Okay, hello people tuning into my Tegu videos. Try to make this video straightforward, but you never know. I mean, it just takes a long time to make videos, but I'm going to try to get to the point as usual that people want. But today I'm going to fix my Tegus some food. I feed them a lot of mice and rats, but they also need to have their greens, and so I have some greens here. I made a couple trips to the grocery store over the last couple of days. I went out of town and then I got back and I needed to fix some good meals for them. But let me just tell you a little bit. I went on a three-day trip, and so I had to leave my Tegus by themselves for 3 days. Sassy did pretty well, and probably slept a lot of the time. But Mac, I had to put into about a approximately 30-foot by 20-foot room in my house. It's a large room, and I just want to elaborate how silly and how obnoxious Mac, my male 38-inch Tegu, 38-inch long Tegu, how nutty he is. He does things that you don't expect a lizard to do. I got a gnat in here. But I hooked up my 360 camera in there, and to monitor him while I was gone in 3 days. He unplugged the camera from the wall and unplugged the cord from the camera. I don't know how he did that. He took pictures off the wall, mounted pictures, and spewed them across the floor. A large piece of driftwood that takes a human person to lift up, odd shaped big piece of driftwood, and moved it across the floor. He just did a lot of crazy things in the room, and he destroyed the room. I mean, everything was turned upside down, whatever I had in there. So, but I came home and I was shocked, but and then my camera went blank after 2 hours, into my 3-day trip. And I couldn't watch him. So I was, get a little worried about him, because he also got into my blinds that you pull up and down. I don't know if they're veneer blinds or Venetian blinds or whatever, but they're not expensive blinds. Window, and tore the blinds up. He just destroyed a lot of things, and he's just very, very inquisitive. And I don't know if your Tegus are like that too, but Mac is just a handful. But I'm home now, so I'm going to fix them a really good meal. I usually feed them a lot of mice, but now I need to try to keep their diet pretty diverse. So I've got some bananas. I went to the store. I got some, the purple grapes, and I've got some kale, or not kale, turnip greens here, fresh, and then I've got chicken hearts right here. And so someone on my YouTube channel suggested, to mince my food up, and I've always fed my Tegus, larger chunks, and I haven't mixed a bunch of it together into kind of a condensed meal, a whole bunch into one group. I always kind of divide it up and feed them one grape at a time, and then feed them, chicken liver, chicken heart, or a mouse or a rat. And so this one person was like, man, why don't you just mince it up with a knife? Because I don't have a blender or a meat processor. And so it just didn't make sense to me for some reason that I could just use my knife and I could just mince this all up into finely cut up a meal and blend it together and just kind of make a paste. And so that's what I'm just going to do today. And then we're going to feed my Tegus because that's always fun to do. And they will go crazy for the food. It's now, like 12:40, and they're still asleep. They sleep late into the afternoons. But as you'll see, I'm just going to cut this chicken heart up into smaller pieces and kind of make this into, a blended meal. Hopefully I'm just going to say everything clearly. But I won't make you watch all this. But I'm gonna blend my chicken hearts and the chicken livers. I have some of those, but they're so mushy, and they're just. I usually put them in the microwave, and cook them for 5 to 10 seconds, and that firms them up so they're not so mushy. Livers are just kind of hard to deal with. So I'm just going to do the chicken hearts, collard greens, bananas, and grapes, and put that in a paste, and then put my Reptivite on that right there, and we're going to feed them. Okay. All right, here I'm making progress. I got my bananas, my grapes, and my chicken hearts all chopped up into smaller pieces. And now I'm going to just cut my collard greens. I don't know what I called them earlier. Ouch, almost cut my finger. But I'm going to mince this up, because if my tegus or anything like your tegus, they will not eat anything green. If I disguise it and they catch it, they'll spit it up. Just like a small child in the 70s and 80s. I mean, that's something I would do when I was a child. Children these days seem to, you know, that this newer generations are not as anti-green as maybe we were as kids in the 70s and 80s is what I'm trying to get to. So I have to mince this up, you know, and for some reason, while I didn't have a blender, I didn't think that I could just chop this up with a knife and make it small enough. It just didn't cross my mind, which is ridiculous. It was just my frame of thinking. So the person that brought this to my attention was just like, mince it up with a knife, dude. What's going on? It's not that difficult. You know, he didn't say it like that, but I mean, that's obviously, you know, what I needed to do. So, you know, there are some other tegu videos out there of people, you know, that are, you know, really good at what they do with their tegus, and they blend this up in a blender and make it into kind of a mash, you know, and so then it doesn't matter if you have greens in there, because then the tegus are not going to see, you know, if they visually see it and they don't like green, then they're not going to see it, because it's all going to be mushed up into one meal. But you get the point. I'm going to mix this up, and then I'm going to just blend it into kind of maybe ballish little sections, and then the tegus will just go to town, and they'll get a whole bunch of nutrients in this, you know, that I'm going to feed them in this session. So here I have all this minced up food. It's going to be awesome for the tegus. Now I'm going to just mix in some Reptivite vitamins. There we go. And I'm going to find my lid. Got different lids that fit different containers. Just mix that up, and then we're going to feed the tegus. So they're going to get a wide variety again of food, which is going to be really good for them. And I'm going to try to do this a little bit more often, just to not give them so much mice. Then I'm probably going to buy some chickens, some baby chicks, and, you know, 100 of those at a time, or 200, I don't know. Place an order, because, you know, when you get this stuff, you got to pay shipping, and shipping is pretty expensive because they got to stay frozen. But we'll put that in there, and then I'm going to feed the tegus, and this should be enjoyable to see the tegus eat. That's part of the fun of owning the tegus, is feeding them and interacting with them, you know, rather than just holding them or just looking at them through the glass of your cage. Okay, here we go. All right, here's Sassy. I woke her up. She's going to get her food. She's not super warm, so she is not going to be as enthusiastic as she would be if she'd been sitting under her light all warmed up. She's kind of chunky anyways in the lower midsection. Guess you gotta be kind of trusting to stick your fingers in there around their mouth when they're eating. Sassy's not so bad. She may be having her fill. I feed them like when I do this on this tile floor because they can make a mess, and I just don't want food particles in their cage, and getting mixed in with the dirt and rotting, and so that's why I just feed them in here on the floor. And I got to feed them now separate because they are getting competitive, and Sassy's faster than Mac, and Sassy will maneuver really quickly and try to get the food out of Mac's mouth. And that's my male Tegu, and I don't want them to get in an argument and accidentally bite one or the other and injure themselves. So that's why I'm getting to that point where I need to feed them separately, because they are getting so competitive for food. There's one right there. That's a good meal for Sassy. Don't get so sketchy. It's right there. Get it. Okay, well, you're done. All right, now it's Mac's turn. He got woken up and he's not super warm. Get him over here. He'll chow down on his food. Mac just got to be a little more careful because he's got a bigger mouth and can be a little more aggressive with his food, and his opening of his mouth is a lot bigger. So I don't want to mistake my finger for, and he's messy. He can't grab his food very well as Sassy. So a little more pinpoint. Ah, gosh, you make such a mess. Ah, don't get my hand. Most of the food's going to end up on the tile. You can see Mac being kind of selective when he bites down on the food. He knows he's seeing green, but he also notices that there's chicken there, and he has a hard time distinguishing between the chicken and the greens. But it's just so funny. They love everything chicken. Sassy and Mac go fanatic over chicken, mice, and rats. And again, you can just see that it's funny how he's kind of eating and kind of trying to feel with his mouth as he, tastes the different food. Like a mama with her child feeding the baby. Oh, don't get my fingers. Don't get my fingers. You still full? He's a little more awkward. That's a lot of food. He's probably good with that. But now it's cleanup time on the floor. They'll get a soak in the bathtub warm and go poo-poo, and then get stuck under their heat lights and their UVB bulb, and do it again the next day and the next day and the next day. Thanks for viewing. All right, here's Mac washing him up, soaking him in the bathtub. We try to do this every day, and Mac likes it. But I just wanted to follow up. The reason why I kept him in the house this time, I made a video or made a post about keeping him in the garage, and I would like to do that with Sassy too. But now it's so hot that it averages out over many hours in the 100 to 105 degrees in my garage. And even though they're lizards, I think that's too hot. Let me know your thought. So I can't keep them in the garage because it's not air conditioned or have any fresh air coming in from the outside. It's totally sealed. But I don't feel safe leaving Mac and Sassy in there when they could be in the heat of 100 to 105 degrees for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. It would only cool down into the 90s, at evening time. And I think the Tegus need to be able to get down to about 80 degrees when they want to retreat from 100 degrees. So in the garage, being gone for 3 days, I don't want to take the risk and have them die from heat exhaustion or heat stroke or anything dangerous like that. So I just be better to leave them in the garage, and in there they can mess up everything and poo-poo and do everything and have fun. But again, I just can't risk it. So, yep.